What's up, friends? It's Jordan, and you're listening to the I Am More Than podcast. We're a community of multifaceted and imperfect women here to inspire, educate, entertain, and grow together. We're excited you're here to hang with us and happy to have you part of the More Than movement. I can't tell you guys how excited I am about this week's episode. You should see my face as I'm even recording this intro because I just had the best time with this week's guest. I've admired Jenna and the empire she's building with Fun On Weekdays since I moved to Austin. So getting the chance to sit down with her and record in her studio was a literal dream come true for me. For all of you who love to watch podcast episodes, head over to our YouTube channel. You'll get to see her super cute space and just feel like you're in the room with us. It was so refreshing doing an in-person interview. So many of you know and love Jenna, and I wanted to show you a different side. So we talked about mental health and confidence, and she took us through the things she's implemented in her life to become the best and most happiest version of herself. She talked about what inspired her to create Fun On Weekdays, how she structures her days as a business owner, advice for young women, and how she fully manifested her relationship. I love how open, down-to-earth, and relatable Jenna is, and I know our community is going to fall in love with her. I got the privilege of being a guest on her podcast as well, and I talked all about my modeling journey and shared some pretty wild stories that I've never actually talked about publicly. So be on the lookout for that episode to drop on the Fun On Weekdays podcast later this week. But for now, I'm so excited for y'all to hear this episode. I know you will love it. So please welcome Jenna Palek. Hey, you ready?
I'm ready.
This is my first in-person podcast interview in literally 3 years.
I'm so honored.
I'm so excited. And you have been on my bucket list of guests since I moved to Austin. You are such a badass.
Oh my God. I'm so flattered.
Don't worry. I will boost your ego all day long because I'm so happy that you're here.
Thank you. I'm on my period right now. I'm honestly really emotional and I've been like crying nonstop and I've been feeling like shit about myself. So this has already, helped to boost my mood today.
Girl, just take me in your pocket, take me everywhere with you, and I will boost you up all day, every day.
Perfect.
I love it. Well, I'm glad that you brought up that you're struggling right now because I think the majority of our audience can relate to that.
Yeah.
So what do you do on those days that you're really struggling?
Honestly, today I woke up early and I'm so thankful for the fact that it's sunny outside because when it's gloomy outside, I think it's a reflection of my mood as well. So today I actually slept like shit last night. Oh, sorry. Can I swear on here?
Yes, of course.
Okay. People always say that online. I'm like, girl, you can do whatever you want.
Exactly.
And so I woke up this morning at like 7:30. It was bright and sunny in my room. And I was like, you know what? Normally I would stay in bed because yesterday I actually stayed in bed for a while. I skipped my workout class and I didn't go and I felt horrible about it. But today I woke up, I took Quincy on a walk and then I took a shower and I got ready and I did my makeup and I made a cute little video while I did my makeup. And honestly, it kind of boosted my mood. My skin has been breaking out because of my period. So I'm like, you know what? How can I feel better? Do my makeup.
Yep.
And yeah. And then today's day is pretty busy doing work stuff, but then also I have things to look forward to after work. So I think that's also really key is creating like little moments of joy in your day, no matter how small or kind of silly it is, if it's just a makeup video or going and doing something after work. But
yeah, that's all such good advice. And I think that the days that you really, really feel like shit, it's hard to get up and actually get ready, put yourself together.
Oh, totally.
But I think that's, like you said, so key on really boosting up your confidence. And I think it's easy for people to look at somebody like you that has such a fun life and you've really created this life for yourself over the past few years. And a lot of our audience is like 24 to 36-year-old women just really trying to figure out their place, their passion, what they want. And I think looking to somebody like you and knowing that you're also struggling is going to be widely beneficial. So without going fully in depth into your story, I want to talk about the transition from college into this life that you've created. Were you a confident person diving into this? Like, how did you fall into this place?
Okay, so I feel like in college, I lived a couple different lives. So when I first went into college, I was in a long-term relationship and we were not going to the same school. And my freshman year, I joined a sorority because I was just looking for belonging beyond that relationship. I feel as though I identified a lot of my personal goals with his. And I kind of created a future in my mind of what it would look like to be with him versus what I actually wanted. So when I was in college, I joined that sorority. I started taking on leadership roles. I started like kind of building my own life, and I started building my confidence. But then we went through a breakup and I was feeling super, super insecure. And I don't know, I was living in my sorority house at the time, and being in a relationship in college is really difficult. Especially because he wasn't really giving me like the validation I needed. And I only needed validation again because I was insecure. And when you see all these girls around you, you're living in a house of 32 people and they're constantly like going to these date parties and doing these fun things that I felt like I was missing out on. It started making me insecure and a little resentful, I guess is a good word. And so then we broke up and I moved to Austin in 2018 for the summer. And that was the first summer that I was like, oh my God, I have no idea who I am at all, because everything I've ever dreamt of for myself has never really been for myself. It's been for us. So if you like take that person out of the equation, is this still my dream life? And the answer for me was no. So I had to figure out what that was. And so that summer I came to Austin and I was interning at Sherry Hill.
Love.
Which, yes, you have a history with Sherry Hill.
Long history.
And that was my first time out on my own doing anything really for myself and recognizing the fact that I could do literally anything. And that had been something in the back of my mind for years. I just kind of, I don't know. It was always a dream, but it always felt like it was a dream that was so far away or so out of reach. And then it happened and I was like, oh, okay, now what? What else can I do? So after that, I started building my confidence again. And junior year, I started losing my confidence again because I was having horrible acne, like cystic acne. I've talked about it so many times. I have a story on my Instagram page about it. And then senior year comes back around. I just kept going through these phases of like, I'm super confident and then I'm feeling horrible about myself. And then I'm good and I know who I am. And then I'm feeling, self-conscious. And so I think a lot of people go through these phases where you can be a confident person on the outside, but internally I was not really. Yeah. I think it's all kind of a lot of a facade, just depending on how good you are at masking it.
Yeah.
So when I moved to Austin then, after college, and this is like the real transition into real life, I was graduating in 2020, so it was COVID time. And I do think that something about quarantine allowed me to have no fear of rejection or people making fun of me, because it was like everyone's so isolated in this own distorted reality that I'm not even going to see these people who I would be nervous would make fun of me for making TikToks. So why do I care? Like, fuck it, I'll just post it,
Interesting.
And so I think over time, as I started growing a community online, that started gaining my confidence back again too, because I was like, okay, people like what I'm posting. People like that I'm just being honest and open on the internet. Like, this is good. I'll just keep being myself. And as time goes on and more people follow you and more people are interested in your life, there starts to become like this shift where the thing that people used to like about you, your vulnerability and your honesty, then becomes the thing that they judge you for the most. And so last year I was feeling it really hard, just a lot of judgment from people. And it was hard for me to not listen to other people's opinions. And when I say that, it wasn't a lot of people. It was like a small pool of people, and there's few negative comments here or there, but it was really taking a toll on me. And so last year, I would say from the outside looking in, I probably looked like I was having a great time. I'm doing all these events. I'm doing great things for myself and for the people that follow me, but I was actually really struggling. And so it wasn't until this past year in like January, I don't know, I just felt like I had a flip go off or a switch go off, and I've been feeling really good lately. So.
Okay, I have so much to dive into with you. My goodness.
Sorry, that was a lot.
No, I love it. I think that confidence fluctuates so much. And I think that's something that a lot of people, when they're stuck in that insecure mindset, just assume that the people that are putting themselves out there, especially on social media, must just be super confident. And I like that you also said that like you have to build confidence on the inside so that it doesn't fluctuate based off your relationship status or your skin or any of the other external stuff. But that's so much easier said than done.
Yeah.
So when you were really struggling last year, and I know there's only a few like quote unquote trolls out there, I'm sure, but they're very loud and they can fill up your mind. So when you're in kind of a dark place and you're struggling, what are you doing to get to the place where that switch goes off?
So I feel like I recognized that I was basically giving these very few people like a megaphone, and I was allowing them to project their opinion louder than the other people on the other end who were like super supportive, super kind, so nice to me. I'm like, I should be giving them the megaphone. Like, why am I allowing these people's opinions to be emphasized when they don't want the best for me at all?
Yeah.
And so I guess I just started looking at it like that. I realized that I wasn't acknowledging the people that have been there for me all along. And when I started shifting my energy towards appreciating them and focusing on them, it helped me tune out these like bad apples.
Okay, so then as you're trying to really focus on like your own internal aside from social media, are you struggling with this even when you're not showing up online? Are you working on your mental health throughout it? Are you doing stuff to like build up your confidence? Like, what are some tactical things that you were doing?
Yeah, I would say this past year I started taking my health a lot more seriously. So like a year and a half ago, I tried being gluten and dairy free. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna start taking over my diet and start eating better, whatever. And that only lasted for so long, just like confidence. It kind of went in waves of okay, I'm committed, and okay, I'm done.
It ebbs and flows.
Exactly. I want mac and cheese right now, and that does not include dairy or gluten. So so that kind of went in waves. And then this year I started working out a lot more and just taking that more seriously. And when I say working out more, I mean working out for my body better, if that makes sense. So I started working with a personal trainer, and my workouts now are like 40 minutes long, and they're way more effective than going to the gym for like 2 or 2.5 hours just doing random shit.
Yep.
Which I don't know. And so I think I'm taking care of my body a lot better. And I started getting on medication for my acne. My hair has been growing. And it's so interesting because as my internal mood about myself changed and my perception of myself started becoming more and more positive, I feel like I started recognizing a healthier glow in my external appearance. And so it's really validating when people say things like, oh my gosh, you look so happy, or you look so healthy and glowing. I'm like, thank you so much. That is probably the nicest thing that you could possibly say, because like being healthy mentally and physically was probably the hardest thing in the past couple of years.
Yep. And you have to put a lot of work into both.
Yeah.
And I think when it comes to doing the stuff that is the hard work, you know, like getting on medication and taking care of your body and being really intentional about it, it's a long game play. It doesn't happen quickly, which I think is what a lot of people want. They want a quick fix.
Oh my God, girl, talk about a quick fix. When I was struggling with acne, I'm like, let me just do every single thing that I possibly can. Like the last thing that I wanted to do was go to the dermatologist, wait for them to give me a prescription, have to wait months to see if it ends up working. I want to just fix things overnight. And I'm kind of also the same about things that I'm passionate about. It's like, I need to go full-fledged as hard as I can, 100%, like right now, or else it's going to kind of fizzle off. And that's how I am about a lot of things in life.
Yeah, I am too.
And then, and then I get distracted and
very distracted all the time.
Yeah, but I mean, I love a quick fix. And what I realized is that the quick fixes are the things that go in ebbs and flows. And the long-term things that you have to work towards are the things that are more sustainable, unfortunately.
Unfortunately.
Yes.
There really are no quick fixes.
Totally.
So once you're getting on social media during quarantine, that's really when you started kind of getting out of your shell a little bit and trying to build this whole life for yourself. And it seems like it just blew up and took you in a completely opposite direction. When you got on TikTok and social media, were you just having fun, or did you want to take it seriously as a job?
Yeah, so when I got on TikTok, it was actually summer 2019 because I was working at Sherry Hill for a second summer, and they assigned me this TikTok project to just basically do a research project about trends, influencers in their target market, and they wanted me to kind of create like a TikTok campaign. And this was before TikTok was super huge. It had just kind of changed from Musical.ly. So the creators on the app were a lot different than now, and the content was a lot different. So as I went to college my senior year, fall 2019, and then going into the spring of 2020, TikTok kind of started shifting. And you see that when you look back, like there's all those quarantine trends, and it used to be all these dancing videos, but then quarantine changed it to these at-home coffee DIY things, or cleaning your house, or showing just normal other things other than dancing. And so when I was in college, I just used to post for fun. We would post little dancing videos before we went out to the bars. And again, like I said, I never really made like a makeup video or me talking about my life or anything because the only people that followed me were my friends.
Yeah.
And it's a little weird, to start off, you're like, this is embarrassing if people that I know see this or people from high school see this. So I always tell myself, no one I know is ever watching or listening to me. And that allows me to just post and say whatever. And so it was really just for fun. And then it wasn't until the spring of 2020 I was looking for a job and I went to go submit an application at TikTok and then the job posting was gone and I'm like, okay, let me figure out how I can actually utilize this platform. So my goal for that actually was to go viral. I created a video resume essentially talking through all my job experience, showing photos, showing actual proof of what I've done and my creative capabilities, I guess. And so my goal of that was to go viral. But my goal was never to become then an influencer or a creator. It was literally just to get the job.
Interesting. Okay.
And so then I did get the job. And then it's kind of funny. If you look back at my super, super old videos, I used to think that networking and career stuff was my niche. And so I would post things about building resumes. I would build custom resumes for like Instagram. I think I might have done one for, I know I did one for Instagram, maybe like Pinterest or something. And yeah, that was kind of my thing until I realized people weren't sticking around for the resume stuff. They were just interested in my daily life. So then that's when it kind of started shifting to more lifestyle and personal videos. And then from there, yeah, it just became something a lot bigger than I ever would have thought. So
Yeah.
I'm very grateful for that.
Sounds like it. So you get the job at TikTok, and are you still just posting your everyday life? And then when do you make a transition to making your own brand?
Yeah, so I graduate college May 2020. I got the job like literally the week that I was graduating. And so I took 2 months to stay at home before I ended up moving to Austin. That's where the job was. It was fully remote. And so all these people were super invested in the video because that resume went viral. And then everyone's like, oh my God, did she get the job? And 2 weeks later, I said, yes, I did. Now I'm moving to Austin. And then there were people who stuck around. They're like, just watching me basically go back home, hang out with my friends before I moved to Austin for this new job. I don't know anyone. I'm single. I'm like going out all the time. And so I did just start posting random things of me starting my life post grad. And it's weird now because it feels like it was so long ago, but it really
It's
was
really
only
not that long.
It's like 3 years, but
Wow.
a lot has changed in that time. And yeah, it's from there just kind of started growing. More people started following me on TikTok and on Instagram. And I remember a few brands started reaching out to me, but I was an account manager at TikTok. And so I was in advertising and it was this huge kind of blurry gray line. I don't know the correct terminology for that, but it was questionable whether you could or couldn't work with brands on paid partnerships because if you could technically be their account manager, then you can't work with them. And so I don't know, I always kind of put my work before TikTok. And in the summer, I had talked to this agency that I'm actually now signed to, and I had 70,000 followers on TikTok and they wanted to sign me. And I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. If I make social media my full-time job, then it won't be fun anymore. I won't enjoy it as the same. I just don't want to do that. And I have so many videos saying that too. I'm like, girl, don't contradict yourself. But over time, I started realizing that there were a lot more opportunities for creative freedom and flexibility in my schedule. And also just the opportunity to create your own income is completely endless. And it got to a point where I was making more money making videos on TikTok as a creator than I was as a full-time employee. I'm like,
That's
okay. So I knew that I wanted to quit my job. Here's the thing too, is that I wanted to quit my job because I just didn't like the position. I was not against staying at TikTok. It was just the account manager role was not for me. It was super logistical, a lot of analytics and stuff. Not really my thing. And I asked about going to the marketing team or the events team, and there was no opportunity for me to move around. And so from there, I was like, okay, I'm going to quit my job. And I have social media to like kind of fall back on. And my projected income was like around the same as a creator as it was like an employee. So obviously as a creator, you don't have the consistency of your invoices or consistency of pay, and that could end any day. So my thinking was, if this doesn't work out, I can always get another job. But for the meantime, I can try it out and I can look for another position. But in the meantime, I ended up just putting a lot more energy into Fun on Weekdays and doing my own thing that I never ended up getting another corporate full-time job. And I just went with the social media kind of route.
Okay. Now, Fun on Weekdays, was that just something that you came up with as soon as you came to Austin and it just stuck?
No, so Fun on Weekdays started, I think in like, I want to say like May of, well, so the actual podcast started in July 2021, but I put it out into the universe. I made a video. I think it was in like May or June prior to that. And the whole idea was I'd worked at TikTok for almost a year. I was, stuck in my apartment for a majority of the day. And I also wasn't really that good at my job and I wasn't passionate about it at all. And I realized that so many of my friends felt the exact same way. But for whatever reason, we would use work, even though we fucking hated work, as an excuse for why we couldn't do anything on the weekdays. It's like, oh, well, I have to work tomorrow. I'm like, okay, well, we have to work for the rest of our lives. So you're just going to use that excuse until you're like 60 years old? Because that's that's a pretty long excuse to not just have fun in the moment while you can. And so it kind of became this idea of just, I'm so sick of doing the same thing every freaking day. Get me out of here. And I just started doing things after work or before work or little things in my day that made them a little bit more joyful. And I just called it Fun on Weekdays. And that stuck. And then I said, I'm going to make a podcast. And I said it without any intention of really making it. But then that video also went viral. I'm like, oh shit, now I have to do it. And so a month later, I started the podcast. And to be honest with you, I had no experience. I had not really listened to any podcast before. I had no idea what I was doing. But I just knew if I waited too long, I was going to lose the momentum. And like I said at the beginning, if I'm going to do something, I have to do it 100% right now or it'll fizzle out. So I started it. And yeah, when I quit my job, it had been like a month after I started the podcast. So the podcast also became another source of revenue for me aside from just social media as well. So when I quit my job and I told my parents like, oh, I'm going to do this, they were like,
oh.
Yeah, well, no, they were supportive. Of course they were supportive, but my dad had a lot of questions about, job security and like, how long are you going to do this? Or what if this happens? Or you need to get your own insurance now, all these things. So there's definitely a lot of logistics that come with doing your own thing and being a full-time creator, but I'm so happy that I did that and made the pivot.
Yeah, and just started it. I think that's the thing is a lot of people, myself included, marinate on an idea for so long until it's the perfect timing, the perfect opportunity, all the stars align to actually do it. And I think that's what creates not only an excuse, but it holds people back. And there's a lot of people that are stuck in their day-to-day, whether it's just their work life, being a mom, whatever it is, that they just feel like it's so tedious and they don't really have stuff to look forward to. Mm-hmm. So I think the message that you're really putting out there can resonate with so many people. And you moved to a city without knowing anybody and you've built all of this. So what were you doing in the beginning to meet people, to try and make both personal connections and professional connections?
Okay, so not gonna lie, I was single. So I was on like Hinge and Bumble, and guys, nothing was open. Literally nothing was open. And the places that were open, you had to go in groups of people. So I'm sorry, but I don't know anyone. So I'm going to need to meet people online in order to even find a group to go with. And so you would get invited to like a boat day or something with a random group of people. And then you just invite someone else. And then you meet people. I met like two of my girlfriends on a random boat. And I only got invited by some other girl who was dating some guy who's friends with the guy who had the boat. And the girl that I made friends with met the guy on Hinge. Like so many weird connections. And I think that's the greatest part about social media is that you can meet so many people. So aside from that, like I never met any guys through Hinge or anything. Like that was a dead end. Luckily, because now I met Connor. But I met girlfriends through that is what I'm trying to say. From just like group settings. But also a lot of people would DM me on Instagram and say, hey, I saw your TikTok that you're moving to Austin. I also just moved here. Do you want to meet up? And I met up with a lot of people, like truly a lot of people, either in a group setting or like one-on-one, getting coffee, getting dinner. And the hardest thing about it is that like, you're not going to be best friends with the first 2 or 3 people that you meet. And so it's kind of awkward because it's like, if you meet up once and you don't really think that you hit it off, but maybe someone else thinks that it went really well and like they want to keep hanging out. It's like, I, that's the hardest part
Yeah.
about making new friends, in my opinion. But I got to a place where I was just like really comfortable meeting new people because I was doing it so frequently. And then my schedule was just so busy. I'm like, I don't have time to meet up for coffee or for dinner. And like, I already have this group of friends that I don't feel like I have enough time to give my attention to, let alone like building a new friendship and then meeting up with you to grow our friendship. It's like I need to just focus on nurturing the girls that I already have that are already close to me. And so that's when the idea came of, okay, well, I can't go to brunch with you, but this other girl asked me to go get coffee. So like, let me connect you guys together. And so the whole idea of like connecting my community to one another was to help bring them together in person. And so obviously you can meet people online, but it's one thing to just message back and forth than it is to make the actual commitment to make plans. So the whole idea about Fun On Weekdays events was to create these events where girls can come alone and they don't feel weird about it because they know so many other girls are coming alone, and they can make a new friend, and they can either meet up with that girl that they've been messaging with online through my Facebook group or through Bumble BFF or whatever it is, or Instagram DMs. And so just to create that space where like it's not awkward because everyone around you is also doing the exact same thing as you.
Yeah, that's really comforting. I still find myself getting nervous to put myself out there and to go somewhere alone. And I have noticed Austin's one of those cool places that it's not weird when you do that. But I think with Jared building too, it's not just in Austin.
Mm-hmm.
It's in so many other cities. And when you're meeting these girls, are you able to see these connections and true friendships form? Do they keep coming back to more events, or what's the long-term play there?
Yeah, there's a lot of girls that have been to almost every single event that I've done in Austin, which is so crazy to me. And over time, like obviously I form a relationship with them too. It may not be like a personal one-on-one relationship where we know so much about each other, but it's the kind of like acquaintance where it feels like a community of girls around me that are like consistent and very supportive. And I love seeing familiar faces, but also too, there's always new girls that come because, you might come to an event and you might meet your 3 best friends. And then you're like, okay, I'm good. I don't need to make any other friends. And then they kind of go off on their own. They may just come to another event as their group, maybe not looking to like make another friend. But yeah, it's really insane to see the connections that people have made through it, whether it's a new roommate moving to a new city or finding a sublease from someone or finding a job. Like so many girls have gotten jobs through my page.
That's wild.
So many girls have met friends. It's really comforting to know that what I'm doing actually has meaning, because I do think that influencing in social media can be very shallow and very materialistic. And so my only goal is to build something that like people will remember me for, and not just like my outfits or my makeup. Like I want them, even if I haven't met them, I want to have an impact on their life, maybe because I helped them do something or meet someone or move somewhere. So that's my goal.
And you're doing it.
That was like really in depth.
No, I love it. And you're doing it, which is the coolest part. And I think meeting friends outside of college is a really difficult thing to do. And it's something that so many women especially really struggle with. And I assume you were probably in a sorority. You've always been a social butterfly. Am I right on that one?
I was, yes.
It's impressive because it's translated into not only your work, but there's so many different things that I feel like everything that you're working on is very cohesive.
Thank
and
you.
It all comes together, it's special.
I appreciate that because in the moment, it oftentimes doesn't feel like it is cohesive. From my side, I'm such a perfectionist, and I feel as though I'm still trying to figure this out and trying to figure out how to build something bigger than just like a social media following,
Yeah.
And so I oftentimes nitpick myself or events or graphics or like, I don't know, random things. And I get hung up on those little details. But so to hear it from an outsider's perspective is really nice. So
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Of course. And we started more than, 3 years ago, we launched the podcast. And it's been very slow and steady growth of just making this community of women that can bond over these kind of taboo topics. We talk a lot about mental health, a lot about confidence, which is where we really align on that. But it's been difficult for me personally as a business owner, kind of dealing with that imposter syndrome, knowing that I'm still trying to figure out what the hell I'm doing every day. How do you deal with that when you're trying to come up with like new ways to grow and expand and second guessing yourself? How do you like push past that?
Okay, imposter syndrome is definitely real because it's really easy to compare numbers to other people and to like belittle yourself and your worth based on like number of followers or number of likes or number of downloads or whatever. But I always come back to the idea of the community is so immeasurable. You cannot put a number on people's loyalty. And like loyalty is built over time. So I would much rather have a slow, steady burn of people that have seen my videos like 5 or 10 times and they haven't followed for a long time, because when I finally do get their follow, it's like they made a conscious effort to follow me because they decided over time after seeing numerous videos that they liked me, versus going viral overnight and gaining this huge following because they liked one video that blew up. And then you have this like huge pressure to, you know, uphold those same style videos. And when you don't, people kind of forget that they followed you and they're like, wait, who is this person? And they have no loyalty to you. So what I have to say about the slow, steady burn is that I think it's actually a lot more valuable. And I think that it allows you to learn who your community is and what they want from you so much more. Because when you just blow up overnight and you have all these followers now from all these different angles, it's really hard to figure out like, how can I best serve them? And that's the whole purpose of being an influencer, is to serve your following and to provide them value. And whether that value is like entertainment or resources or education or opportunities, like that is for you to figure out. So when you are able to do that over time, you can better understand who your people are that support you.
Yeah, that's a really, really good point. Because it's interesting having people that want to be there opposed to people that want to be there to like nitpick what you're doing.
Yeah.
And earlier you had said too that like you have to pretend that none of the people that you actually know from like your hometown are actually looking. I feel like I have to do the same thing. I'm from a really small town in Colorado. And every time I find out that any of those people that knew me growing up are watching what I'm doing, I get so nervous. I'm like, no.
I know. It's hard. Yeah. You just got to tune it out. Oblivion.
Yeah, that's a word, right? Oblivion?
Yeah, I just choose to be oblivious to anyone that watches. And then randomly, like my mom or my grandma will ask me about something I said on the podcast. I'm like, huh?
You're like, don't.
You listen? I mean, I know they listen, but in my mind when I'm recording it, if you get in your head about it, you're going to filter yourself.
Yeah.
So personally, I don't listen to any of my podcasts back more than once. And it has to be the day that it comes out, because otherwise I'm so embarrassed. I'm like, this is cringy. This is so embarrassing.
I'm so glad I'm not the only one that feels that way.
No, it is. I'm like, why am I giving everybody such like an in-depth, purposeful, you know, lecture about life? Like,
especially
I don't need to be
solo
doing that.
Episodes.
Yes. Or you think I'm being hilarious when I listen back. I'm like, that is not funny. That joke did not land.
You know what? It probably did. It probably did land.
The best thing about it is that I will never know, because something about a podcast is like, you don't have to look at comments or engagement the same way that you do when you post a video on TikTok or a photo on Instagram. Like, you don't see people's feedback. All you see is the number of people that listen to it. I mean, you get reviews, of course, but it's not as often. People aren't leaving a review as often as they are like commenting or
And I feel like the people that do leave reviews are typically doing it because they really want to support you individually, or you have those one-off that like really don't want to support you.
It's always one end or the other.
Always. And the middle ground ones rarely say anything.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes there's just like not that much to say, which is totally okay. And some podcasts are not for certain people. Some people are not for other people. That's okay. And as someone that is such a people pleaser, it's been a really hard pill for me to swallow that not everyone is going to like me. And it's really, really hard to get that out of my head, because when I am posting content or I'm doing events or I'm doing literally anything, in my mind is always, what are the most people going to like? And it's like, no, not what are the most people going to like. It's what is your community going to like? And I have to shift that because, you know, it's two completely different groups of people.
Totally. And I'm such a people pleaser too, to a downfall, that it's like I am thinking about what other people are going to want the majority of the time, and trying to like snap out of that is really hard to do in my personal life, but now even professional life, because you have to be really protective of your community. And can you catch yourself when you're being a people pleaser, or can you see like, this is what I would want, so I need to go with that, opposed to this is what I think my community would want?
Yeah, actually there was one instance recently that I had to go with what I wanted to do. And so I had this movie night planned. It was an event on a rooftop downtown drive-in in Austin. and it was just really crappy weather. And we had this planned for like 2 weeks in advance because you have to coordinate all the vendors and the venue and pay all the fees and everything. And honestly, our bad. We didn't have a backup plan for an indoor place. But as we got there, I'm like, this is just not the vibe. It's so damp and wet and humid. And like, yes, I know the girls would still come and I know that they would still be happy to be there, but it's just not the standard of what I want the events to be. So I called off the event literally an hour before. And I had to listen to my gut because it's like, would I rather present them something of my highest quality that meets my standard of what I want people to know me for? Or would I rather just like go along with the event tonight because it would be the easiest thing to do and just make the best of it? And knowing that like it would be more convenient for the girls that did buy tickets to come to it. So we ended up refunding everyone the tickets and we rescheduled it to this actually last week and everything was great. And I'm so happy that I did that because sometimes you got to listen to yourself. But when it comes to feedback on certain things, it's like a business. The hard part about being an influencer is that you don't have a product. So like Waterboy, for example, my boyfriend's business, if someone says, oh, the product is too salty or it's too expensive or I don't like the flavor, those are all subjective opinions, but they don't hurt as bad because it's a product.
Mm-hmm.
But
you.
But it's also a business. So if you look at an influencer and someone says, you're unrelatable, this was out of touch, you're rude, those are also subjective opinions, but it's about a personality. It's not a brand, but you're also selling stuff. Like you are a brand when you're an influencer. So I do think that you have to listen to those people because, I mean, everyone's feedback is valuable in some sort. So yeah. I don't know. That's my opinion on that.
It's tough to do, especially like you said, when you have a product. I almost feel like it's easier to present that product and not care as much about the negative feedback in the way that it like doesn't personally offend you.
Yeah. And those are things you can change overnight.
Exactly. But when it's something about yourself and your personality or something that you've put a lot of work and time into. And for me, I always struggle when my intention doesn't come across.
Oh, yeah.
Because I feel like we always have pure intentions. And then for somebody to be like, yeah, that didn't land or it's out of touch or whatever it is. How do you deal with that if you get that?
So I think honesty is always the best thing possible. And I don't mean honesty in the way that you over explain yourself because then it kind of seems like you're guilty.
Yeah.
But if you just explain yourself, explain your intentions and own up, like if you made a mistake, then say you made a mistake and apologize for it and move on. Don't act like it didn't happen. I made a mistake one time of working with this brand that I didn't know the owners had like a bad history. And I did this partnership and I didn't look at my phone for 2 hours. I come back to my phone. Everyone's like, oh my God, I cannot believe you're supporting this brand. Like I used to support you. This feels so off brand for you. I'm so disappointed. And so I go online and then I see all of these reviews of these people, which that was on me. Like I didn't do enough research about the brand before I did the partnership. I did reviews about the brand, but I didn't do reviews about the owners. And so when that happened, I literally did the classic old, I terminated the partnership, which I think you should always do. If you make a mistake of working with a brand that like doesn't align with you, your community is going to know that, first of all. So I deleted all the posts. I terminated it. I didn't get paid for that. And I made like a black square Instagram story caption, which is such a classic, like taking accountability. But I apologized and I said, if anybody bought this product because you were influenced by this, like, please let me know and I'll reimburse you for it. Because I don't want you to support a product thinking that I support it, blah, blah. And then I think people just respected the fact that I was open about it.
Yeah.
Because I mean, a lot of people can just sweep it under the rug and be like, that didn't happen.
Yep.
But I think it shows a lot more about you when you explain yourself and you're open to, I don't know if criticism is the right word, but
criticism,
accountability.
Growth. Yeah. Accountability is everything. So knowing that you work for yourself and now you have your own employees, you have to really be smart about how you structure out your day. Mm-hmm. Let's go through your day because I'm curious. You said that today you got up at 7:30. Is that kind of typical for you?
Okay, so recently I have actually been going through training to become a bar instructor.
Amazing.
So that has
just add that to the list.
I know, right? So that has become a part of my day. I had to take like a certain number of bar classes in order for me to do my test out and then get my certification and then start teaching. So I finished my training and that was over the weekend. So like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, all day. That is my weekend, was training.
How sore were you after?
Actually not sore at all because bar has so much stretching in it that I was sore like the first weekend,
Yeah.
like one of the days, but you stretch so much that I was like, oh, I feel good. I feel strong. It was good.
Okay, I'll come to one of your classes. Sold.
Yeah. So now I'm trying to fit barre classes into my day, and it's hard because oftentimes they're super early in the morning, but then I'm like so tired because I go to bed late. I'm a night owl.
Are you a night owl?
Yeah.
I'm not a morning person at all.
But I hate going to night classes because in my mind, it's like if I'm going to wake up and I'm going to do my makeup during the day, then I'm just going to have to take my makeup off and sweat it off before class. It's just, I don't like to do that. I would rather wake up, go to class, shower, then do my makeup. So this is my day.
Smart. I get it.
This is a really roundabout way to say I wake up and I let my dog out, take him on a walk if it's nice out. If it's just raining, he goes in the yard. And then feed the dog. And some days, well, I wash my hair like every 3 days.
Okay.
So some days I wash my hair, and those days it takes a lot longer for me to get ready because I have to blow dry it. But other days I just do a little body shower. And then depending on the day, sometimes I do my makeup. If I have a content day, then I typically do my makeup and I make a video out of doing my makeup. So Tuesday, Thursdays, I have us working from home, me and my girls, so that I can focus on partnership things that have nothing to do with Fun On Weekdays, that have to do with like Jenna Palek LLC. So I focus on those things on Tuesday, Thursdays. And if I don't have anything to do, then I come into the office anyways, but they work from home those days. And then Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we all work here in the office, and we get here around like 10 and leave around like 5 or 6. It really just depends on the day. Like, I believe in work-life balance, and I'm never going to be the boss that makes you sit here on your computer and diddle-dally to act like you're doing something just to fill time. If you finish what you need to do for the day, then like leave and go do something fun. That's the whole point. That's like, you need that time for yourself. And I think that that allows people to be the best employee too, is because then they become efficient in their work and they like aren't just sitting down wasting time, you know?
Yeah.
So we work here Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And then after work, I try to do something. Wednesdays are my date nights with my boyfriend. Monday nights are my girls' nights. And then Tuesday, Thursday, I do something else. Just
You're
depends.
so structured. I love that.
I'm not really.
But I love it. Okay, so Mondays are girls' nights.
Yes.
Good for you. Love that.
Yes.
Wednesdays, date night.
Yes.
Every Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, I need to get better about my date night game.
It's
Ours
really
is very
helped
sporadic.
us. Honestly, it's helped so much because we live together and you live together too.
Yeah.
It's easy to become roommates and not a couple.
Yeah.
So the date nights are our times to like actually, date.
Yeah. And you had mentioned earlier, I'm backtracking a little bit, but when you moved to Austin, you were single.
I
So now
was.
you're in a committed relationship, girlfriend.
I am. Yeah.
So how the heck did that happen?
So when I was in college, Connor was on Hannah Brown's season of The Bachelorette, and I was a fan, of course. I mean, how could I not be? Look at him.
You guys together, you're an adorable couple.
Thank you. Yeah, so I messaged him on LinkedIn because I was like, everyone's probably messaging him on Instagram.
On LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Strategic.
Well, I knew he was a businessman. He said that he owned a business and he used to work at Goldman Sachs. So I'm like, let me just slide into his LinkedIn. And I was a networking girly. So I messaged him on LinkedIn, and that was weird on my part. Like, looking back, it was so weird. But it's also the same, in my opinion, as like messaging Harry Styles. Like, you message them weird shit knowing that they're never going to read it. They're never going to respond. It's just like kind of funny for you to look back on,
Yeah.
But then he actually did read it. And so then he like left me on red, and I just made a funny joke about it. Like, Connor, someday you're gonna regret leaving me on red when I'm a millionaire. So cringy. Like, I can't believe I said that,
I love
but
this.
it's fine. And so then when he ended up moving to Austin, like a couple months after I moved to Austin, I made a TikTok video like showing the messages and making fun of myself because I'm like, if this ever comes to light, I better be the one to share it because it's embarrassing. So if I just own it, then no one else can make fun of me if I make fun of myself. And then he
I like
ended
that
up,
philosophy.
yeah. Then he ended up following me on TikTok, and that was weird. I'm like, oh my God, is he gonna message me? He didn't. And then like a couple weeks went by, and he randomly messaged me one day and asked me if I want to go on a walk/run after work. I'm like, let's go with a walk. I'm not a runner. And then I was just picking through every single workout set in my closet like the Grinch. And he's like, that's it. I'm not going. Because I hated everything on me. And I was like, oh my God, Connor Saley like asked me to go on a walk. So yeah, then we met that day in fall 2020. And we walked for like 5 miles, I think, around Lady Bird Trail. And we just talked for hours. And yeah, he talked a lot about his family and his life in Dallas and stuff. We really did not talk about The Bachelor at all. And I feel like I got to know him a lot more. And it made me like him more because he was so much better in person than like the idea of who he was that I created for him from the TV. And so we just became really good friends over time and then started hanging out a lot more in the spring. That was around the time that he started Waterboy and I was doing more on social media, and we just had a lot in common. And yeah, became really good friends. And then one day he decided he liked me and he kissed me in his car, and I was like freaking out. And then we were in the talking stage for a little while, and we actually lived together before we started dating because we moved to LA for a couple months. Me, him, and his business partner. We lived in an Airbnb together.
Why?
I know. So it was right after I quit my job,
Okay.
and they wanted to change from Austin because they like wanted to do more with Waterboy and stuff. And so we all just thought, oh, if we get out of Austin, maybe we'll have a clear mindset. Let's go to LA. And I thought it'd be a good work opportunity, but I actually ended up not liking it at all. So I'm glad that we went because we realized it wasn't for us. But yeah, we lived together there, and that's when we started dating, was in November of 2021.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's been a year and a half now.
That's funny that you guys were living together before you were dating.
Yeah.
Clearly it was going well.
Yeah, it was going well. And also, too, like you see someone's red flags so clearly when you're dating them. Like, you know who they are to their core. Like, you see all of their flaws and all of their little weird personal tics that they have. And, you know, if you can get past that and you still like that person, then I think that you're good to go.
Yep.
Because living with someone, you see
everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Everything. Well, I will say that's the power of manifestation right there.
Yeah. I know, really. I speak everything into existence. I'm like, one day I'm going to sell Fun On Weekdays for $50 million.
You heard it
Make
here
it
first.
happen.
You heard it here first.
Hey, it's not like so far out of reach.
No, it's not.
Who knows?
It's really not. So what is your goal with Fun On Weekdays? What do you see the big overall plan for selling it?
Yeah. So ideally, like, I don't want Fun On Weekdays to be me. And I think that's one thing that I struggle with right now is that I'm like so personally tied into Fun On Weekdays, but I want it to function on its own without me. So like, I want to be doing more and more events in different cities where I am not personally at the events, because like, if that was the case, we would limit ourselves to so few events.
Yeah.
Amongst like all of the other travel that I do for my other business, which is just influencing stuff, I'm so limited to that. So the ideal world is I'll have people in different cities that will be like ambassadors, reps type thing, and they'll work part-time, and obviously they'll like be paid. And that's why so much of this takes time, is because like I don't have that up front to just do that overnight. Like, that takes money and resources. So to have people in different cities help me facilitate these different events like weekly would be so awesome, but also create Fun On Weekdays as more of a media company. So like, it started as a podcast, but honestly, the podcast is just like one segment of what Fun On Weekdays is now. Like, the event segment is so huge. It's honestly probably bigger than the podcast. And then I have the e-commerce too. So when I do the merch online, like, that's a huge source of revenue for Fun On Weekdays. And so my goal is to stop doing merch. Like, I need to start my own actual company with my own products that I am personally like designing. So that to me is more long-term than like just slapping a logo on a t-shirt and building that. And then from there, like, having an audio experience where I have other shows under Fun On Weekdays, where I have other podcasts that I like help produce and help sell. And it's all part of this, like, you know, like iHeartMedia or Dear Media, how they have all those different shows.
Yeah.
Fun On Weekdays being its own with my own collection of shows. That's the goal.
Super attainable.
Yeah.
I mean, you're well on your way.
Yeah.
And you're really only into this for what, 2 years, 3 years?
It'll be 2 years in July. So like a year and a half.
Wild. Good for you. So is there anything that you know now that you wish when you were starting that you could go back and tell yourself that would have just alleviated some of those growing pains or given you that extra boost of confidence?
That's a really good question. I mean, one thing that's really, I wouldn't say difficult, but just the whole structure of a business. Like, I completely restructured things for this upcoming year because taxes as a creator can get very high. If you don't know how to file your taxes to minimize what you're paying to the government. Because like the IRS, if you don't know what you're doing, they're going to make you pay as much as you possibly can. So I have a CPA, and I got a CPA last year. I got a bank like accountant, and I have an investor as well. So I created kind of a team around me this past summer because I realized that everything was so unorganized and I had just all these different invoices flying around. I started paying vendors for events. And it's like, if an event costs $100,000, I don't know if people realize this, but I have to pay those invoices up front. Like, you can't just wait for the ticket revenue to come in and then for you to transfer that money over to the vendors. So it takes a lot of time to, like, I can't do all of these really big, huge events that cost a lot of money because you have to have money to pay for that. Also, the same with merch. Like, you have to have money to pay for inventory. So it is a slow, steady burn. And being smart with my finances is the only way that I'll ever be able to accomplish anything else. So making sure like my LLCs are set up correctly, like figuring out how to file taxes so I can save money. And I do a lot of that through my CPA. He helps me. So that's probably the one thing that I've learned. Because my first year I owed like a bit of money in taxes, and it's because I just didn't know how to expense things, and I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't like file as a small business. I filed as an individual versus an LLC.
Now, did you have like a business coach to walk you through this, or was it just your CPA?
No, it just him.
Girl, you smart.
Well, I mean, the best thing about the internet is like you find every single answer out there on Google. But my agency at J1S is so helpful. They're always looking out for me, and they're the ones that connected me to my CPA because they're actually J1S's CPA is this guy. And so he doesn't typically work with people like one-on-one. He just works with businesses. But because I'm part of the J1S like ecosystem, he helps me with mine. So I'm very fortunate for that.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, you are young, you are successful, and you are just killing it. And we have a lot of people that will write into More Than that are wanting to start something. They don't know exactly what that is, but they know that they're made for more and want to take the first step. And I'll get the question of like, what is the first step? I never know how to answer that question. How would you answer it?
The first step is actually a jump, maybe. That's what I would say.
Yeah. Just starting.
Yeah, just literally do it. It sounds so simple, but for example, bar teacher training. I've been thinking about doing this for over a year now, ever since I like moved to Austin, and I really wanted to do it, but I kept getting in my own head about like, oh, I'm not good enough for it. I'm not strong enough, not skinny enough, whatever, all these things. And then just a couple weeks ago, I saw the training thingy for it, and I literally emailed and I said, sign me up, I'm doing it. And then I just didn't think about it again. And I made the commitment and I just went full 100%. That's how I have to do things. Is like, I can't dip my toes in there and just test it out. Like, no, because if you test it, then you're only going to know only part of the outcome. You have to just like go 100%. And sometimes going 100% means that you have to save time and money in order to do that. So
yeah,
there is obviously like benefit to waiting around and perfecting things, but there's also benefit to just showing your real self too as a work in progress.
Yeah.
And that's what I've been doing.
Now, let me ask you, if you jump all into something, let's just say bar training, just because you brought it up, you jump all in, you go full force, and you decide you don't like it. Do you consider that a failure? Or do you consider that a learning lesson?
No, definitely not a failure. Because honestly, I'm not even fully done. And who knows, if I don't test out of this class and I might learn, you know what? I don't want to do it, but I'm so glad that I did it because I learned something new about myself. I challenged myself in a different way, and I met really great, amazing people through it too. So I don't think that anything is really ever a mistake. And in the moment, it definitely seems like it, but I think over time, life will show you that it was meant to happen for a reason. And it'll take you to whatever the next thing is.
Yep. I love that answer. There's no mistakes. There's no failures. But I think so many people get so caught up in thinking that if they waste time on something and they end up quote unquote failing at it.
Yeah.
And it just really like takes a knock at their confidence too. And bringing it back full circle from the very beginning of our conversation is I think confidence is a muscle that you constantly have to exercise. And the more you keep putting yourself out there and the more you keep proving to yourself that you're capable of pushing yourself, I think that's where like a very foundational part of confidence comes from.
I actually have this saying that a friend told me when I was feeling really low. I was like, how do you build confidence? Like, what do you do? And she said, this is also a famous quote, so it's not from her, it's a quote by a quote, that building confidence is keeping the promises you make to yourself. And I don't know why, but it just struck me so hard because I realized that when I make a promise to myself that I'm going to go to bar at 9 a.m. and then I don't go because I snooze my alarm, I'm like, oh, well, I don't have confidence that I'm going to go the following day either. Because if I can't even commit to that, then like, what makes me think I can commit to it the next day? Or if I don't make my bed every day and I tell myself, oh, I'm going to clean tonight, and I don't clean tonight, it's like, well, I said I was going to do that. But if you do it to your friend, it's like, oh, let's go to dinner tonight, and then you just don't show up for your friend's going to be like, you're unreliable. Like you're not being a good friend. So you have to do that for yourself too. And over time, I think when I started committing to things that I said out loud that I was going to do, it really did start helping me build confidence internally that had nothing to do with my appearance or anything.
Yep. I love that you said that. I recognize that quote from Ed Milet. I actually just did
yeah.
a TikTok video on this too, because it's been such a life-changing quote for me, because like you said, I will always keep my promises to other people, but I can always talk myself out of the promises I make to myself.
Yeah. So much easier.
So much easier. And there's not as many consequences it's just the internal dialogue that you have,
totally.
which is almost worse over time.
Over time, for sure. But it's hard.
It is hard.
I think everyone's just trying to figure it out. Honestly, I always say this too. Like once you think you have life figured out, you get 1 year older and there's something else going on. Like you start a family, then you get married, whatever. Then you're always going to have to constantly evolve and figure it out. So
yep, exactly.
Even my parents probably don't have it figured out. And that's totally okay.
I used to always think when I was younger that I'd get to a certain stage in life and suddenly it would all click and it'd all be figured out. And the older I'm getting, the more I'm realizing like no one knows what the hell they're doing.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of comforting too to know that.
Very comforting. Yep. So hopefully that comforts y'all that are listening.
Yes.
Well, thank you for coming on, Jenna. You are amazing. This was so awesome.
Thank you so much. It's so weird to just like sit and talk about myself.
I love it. I get to know you even more. And to give you a shameless shout out too. I am one of those creepy girls that like slid into your DMs. I think I emailed you actually.
You're a professional girly.
How do I stand out? I emailed you and was like, hi, please come on the podcast and can we be friends? And getting drinks with you and everything, just getting to know you. You are such an incredible, down to earth, amazing woman. And I feel like who people see on the screen truly is who you are in real life.
Oh, thank you.
It's a testament to you.
That's so sweet. Again, I mean, you started it by hyping me up. You're going to finish it by hyping me up.
Girl, you know it.
It's been a good day here.
You know it. Well, if you ever want to come back on the pod, you know where to go.
Okay. I have your number. Text you.
Sure do. If you're loving our pod, please take a moment to follow, download, rate, review, and most importantly, share with a friend. These small steps help us continue bringing amazing content every single week. Make sure you're following us on Insta at More Than Ink and subscribe to our newsletter at morethanink.com for exclusive More Than merch drops and info on in-person meetups. We appreciate you chilling with us and are always here to remind you you are so much more than. We'll see you next week.